Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Hollywood Cine Mysteries. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to our channel, like this video, share it with other movie fans, and let us become connected to his own struggle for survival. This creates an interesting reversal. The story begins with Michael protecting someone else. Later, he needs protection himself. That is one of the reasons a film story is more complicated than a simple revenge. The screenplay was written by Tony Giglio. Andrew Stevens was involved as a producer and also appears in the film as Jacob Finch. Interestingly, Stevens also serves as a narrator. That narration gives the movie a slightly different storytelling style. The title The Shooter also fits. Firearm becomes one of the defining characteristics of his identity. But the movie does not make the weapon itself the entire story. Instead, action star associated with martial arts, physical combat, and high-energy action sequences. The Shooter gave him a chance to appear in a different environment. Instead of playing a modern action hero, he plays a mysterious Western traveler. To the movie, his character relies less on martial arts and more on the traditional skills of a gunslinger. For fans of Dudikoff, this makes the film a useful example of the different types of roles he explored during his career. Randy in the United States on October 23, 1997. It was rated R, reflecting its violent Western content. Although The Shooter did not become one of the most famous Westerns of the decade, it remains interesting because of its combination of action Western themes and a recognizable action star in an unusual role. The movie also demonstrates how a relatively simple Western premise decision creates another. Michael saves Wendy. That creates enemies. Those enemies seek revenge. Michael becomes a target. And the situation continues to grow until confrontation becomes unavoidable. That is the basic engine driving the story. And it is exactly why the movie remains interesting for fans who enjoy forgotten action, its supporting cast, its production details, and why The Shooter is an interesting entry in Michael Dudikoff's career. One of the most interesting things about The Shooter is the way it uses a classic Western formula. The central character is a stranger. He does not belong to the community. He arrives from somewhere else, becomes involved in someone else's problems, and eventually finds himself fighting against people who have control over the local area. This type of character has appeared in countless Western movies, but Michael Atherton is not presented as a typical heroic cowboy from the very beginning. He is quiet, mysterious, and apparently interested in keeping to himself. His personality begins by refusing to ignore injustice. The film therefore presents violence as something Michael does not necessarily seek, but something he is willing to use when he believes there is no other choice. That idea is common in Western cinema. The hero is often a man who would prefer peace, but is forced to become violent because the surrounding world refuses to remain peaceful. Michael's enemies, meanwhile, represent a completely different attitude. They believe power comes from fear. They have numbers. They have weapons. And they believe they can control people because the local community is afraid of them. This creates the classic Western conflict between individual courage and organized intimidation. Jerry Krantz becomes one of the most important representatives of that power. Played by William Smith, Jerry is determined to punish Michael for killing the men connected to him. His motivation is personal revenge, but his actions also demonstrate how much influence he has. Michael cannot simply walk into town and expect justice to protect him. Instead, he has to survive in an environment where his enemies have the advantage. The sheriff and deputy characters add another layer to the situation. Cal Bartlett appears as the sheriff, while Matthew R. Anderson plays Deputy Casey. Their presence reminds viewers that this is supposed to be a functioning community. But the existence of law enforcement does not automatically mean that justice is guaranteed. This is another classic Western idea. Sometimes the law is weak, sometimes it is compromised, and sometimes the hero has to make difficult decisions because official authority cannot solve the problem. The movie's setting is also important. The open landscape creates a feeling of freedom, but the characters are constantly surrounded by danger. Michael can travel across enormous spaces, yet he cannot easily escape the people hunting him. The wilderness gives him room to move. The town gives his enemies power. This contrast helps create the atmosphere of the film. The movie also depends heavily on traditional Western imagery. Horses, firearms, Isolated locations, rugged landscapes, and confrontations between armed men all contribute to its identity. For viewers who mostly know Michael Dudikoff from modern action movies, this can make the shooter feel quite different. Dudikoff's career had already been strongly associated with action cinema by the time this movie was released. His role in American Ninja made him particularly recognizable to fans of martial arts action. But the shooter demonstrates that he could also work within a Western setting. Instead of relying mainly on hand-to-hand combat, the character skills are presented through the language of the gunslinger. That makes the film an interesting change of direction. Randy Travis also brings a different kind of background to the cast. As a major country music performer, Travis already had a strong connection to the cultural world associated with Western imagery. His role as Kyle Tappert adds another recognizable face to the film. For fans of country music and Western cinema, his presence is one of the movie's more unusual casting details. Valerie Wildman plays Wendy, whose situation sets the entire story in motion. Her character is important because without Michael's decision to rescue her, the Red Olenray was known for working extensively in genre cinema. His filmography includes action, horror, science fiction, and other low-budget genre productions. That background helps explain why the shooter fits comfortably into the world of 1990s genre filmmaking. It combines a recognizable star, a straightforward action story, and a strong genre setting. The film's production team also included cinematographer Gary Graver. Cinematography is especially important in a Western because the landscape itself becomes part of the story. Wide outdoor spaces can make characters appear isolated. Close shots during confrontations can create tension. And the combination of open scenery with sudden violence is one of the visual traditions of the genre. The shooter uses these elements to create its Western atmosphere. Another fact worth remembering is the film's alternate titles. If you search for the shooter and cannot immediately find the version you remember, try titles such as Deadly Shooter or Desert Shooter. Different releases and listings can sometimes use different names. This is especially common with older genre films that were distributed through different markets. It can also explain why clips uploaded online may carry titles that do not exactly match the original film title. The movie's 1997 release date also places it in an interesting period for action cinema. By the late 1990s, Hollywood was changing rapidly. Big-budget action movies were becoming increasingly important, while television and home video markets provided opportunities for smaller productions. Films such as The Shooter existed alongside much larger theatrical productions. That does not make the movie unimportant. In fact, these lesser-known films are often interesting because they reveal another side of the action genre. They show what established actors were doing between their better-known projects. They also demonstrate how familiar genres, such as the Western, continue to survive through smaller productions. The Shooter is therefore best understood as a 1990s genre film rather than as a major Hollywood blockbuster. Its appeal comes from its combination of Western atmosphere, action, revenge, and recognizable actors. The film also fits Michael Dudikoff's career during a period when he was appearing in a variety of action and genre projects. For longtime fans, it offers a chance to see him outside the American Ninja image that made him famous. Instead of a martial arts specialist, he becomes a lone Western figure. Instead of fighting through modern city, he is moving through a world of horses, guns, small communities, and personal grudges. That difference alone makes the movie worth discovering. And perhaps the most important fact about The Shooter is that the movie's central conflict begins with a simple moral choice. Michael could have walked away, but he did not. He chose to help Wendy. That choice cost him his safety. He becomes a target. He is eventually captured and badly beaten. But the story does not end with his defeat. The character's survival becomes part of the film's final struggle. This creates the traditional Western image of a wounded outsider returning to confront the people who tried to destroy him. It is a familiar formula, but it remains effective because the audience understands why the hero is fighting. Michael is not fighting simply because he wants power. He is fighting because the conflict was forced upon him after he decided to stand up for someone else. That gives his character a stronger moral foundation. And that is why The Shooter is more interesting than its simple title might suggest. It is not just a movie about a man who knows how to shoot. It is about a man whose decision to use that ability changes his entire life. For Michael Dudikoff fans, the movie is also a reminder that an actor's career can contain many lesser-known projects between the films that become famous. Some of those movies disappear from mainstream discussion. Others survive through television broadcasts, home video releases, online clips, and dedicated genre fans. The Shooter belongs to that second category. It may not be remembered as one of the biggest Western films in the 1990s, but it has its own place among forgotten action Westerns. And when you look at the cast, the production background, the Western setting, and Dudikoff's unusual role, the movie becomes much more interesting. So, the next time you see a mysterious Western clip featuring Michael Dudikoff, remember the name Michael Atherton. Remember that The Shooter was released in 1997. Remember that the story begins when Michael intervenes to save Wendy. And remember that his decision puts him directly against the powerful people connected to the men he killed. That is the foundation of the film story. Thank you for watching Hollywood Cine Mysteries. If you enjoyed the channel, like the video, share it with your friends, and leave a comment telling us which forgotten Hollywood movie you want us to explore next. Until the next mystery, keep watching, keep discovering, and keep exploring the hidden stories of cinema.